Archivist Min Seo descended into the deepest levels of the Luna archive, far beneath the moon's surface. She had spent 30 years guarding humanity's most dangerous secrets. Today, she would finally share them. The elevator stopped at sub-level 47, a place that officially didn't exist. Min Seo walked through corridors lined with memory cores containing the complete history of the previous ones. Information, so dangerous that only 3 humans alive were authorized to access it. She reached the central chamber where General Wu Jin waited with representatives from 12 alien species. These were the leaders who had proven themselves worthy of the complete truth, the ones who might actually help instead of panic. "Are you ready for this?" Min Seo asked the alien delegates. The Alterian council speaker nodded nervously. "We must understand what we're fighting." Min Seo activated the holographic display. The chamber filled with images of a galaxy that looked nothing like their current one. Strange stars burned in impossible colors, and space itself seemed more flexible, more alive. "This is how the galaxy looked 5 million years ago," she began. The previous ones had mastered reality manipulation. They could create matter from thought, bend time like clay, and travel between dimensions at will. The Quantum Collective scientist interrupted. Such abilities would require understanding the deepest principles of existence itself. Exactly. They knew too much. When they discovered the parallel dimensions, they couldn't resist exploring them. They thought knowledge was always good, that understanding would make them stronger. New images appeared showing the first contact with the void entities. What the previous ones saw as beautiful geometric patterns, the entities saw as an invasion of organized matter into their realm of perfect emptiness. "The entities don't hate us," Min Seo continued. "They simply see organic life as a contamination of their perfect void. To them, we're like bacteria growing where none should exist." Dr. Young-sik stepped forward from the human delegation. The previous ones tried to negotiate to find common ground. They spent thousands of years attempting diplomatic contact. "What happened?" asked the Crystalline Collective representative. "The entities agreed to meet. The previous ones sent their best minds, their greatest philosophers and scientists. The entities studied them carefully, then demonstrated their solution to the organic contamination problem." The holographic display showed a star system simply ceasing to exist, not exploded, not destroyed, just edited out of reality as if it had never been there. That's when the previous ones realized they were fighting for the right to exist at all. General Wu Jin took over the presentation. "The war lasted 3 million years. The previous ones developed weapons that could kill concepts, armor that could protect thoughts, and shields that could defend against attacks on the very idea of existence. How do you fight beings that can erase you from reality?" the Zephyrian commander asked. "By refusing to be erased. By maintaining absolute certainty about your own existence even when the universe itself forgets you were ever there." Young-sik activated another display showing genetic patterns. The previous ones realized they were losing because they understood too much about how fragile reality really was. They could see all the ways existence might fail, all the possibilities for non-being. "So they created us," Min Seo continued. "They took samples from dozens of species and combined them into something new. Humans were designed to be intelligent enough to operate previous one technology, but stubborn enough to never doubt their own existence." The alien delegates exchanged worried glances. The Etherian ambassador spoke carefully. "You're saying humans were created as living weapons?" "No," General Wu Jin replied. "We were created as living certainties. Our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology. It's our absolute refusal to accept that reality might be anything other than what we decide it should be." On Threshold Station 7, Commander Daeho watched the approaching entity structure on his screens. It was close enough now that he could see its impossible geometry, patterns that hurt to look at directly. "All stations report ready," came Admiral Tae-young's voice over the command channel. "What exactly are we ready for?" asked Captain Bo-Ram. "Operation Deepwatch. Full revelation of human capabilities. Across human space, hidden systems activated. What other species had seen as simple mining stations and cargo platforms revealed their true nature. Each one was a fortress armed with weapons that could rewrite local physics. The stealth technology that had hidden these installations for centuries shut down all at once. Suddenly, alien sensors across the galaxy could detect thousands of human military installations they had never suspected existed. Dr. Young-sik's voice came over the communication system. "All human personnel, Prepare for consciousness link activation. Every human in space felt a strange sensation, like someone had turned up the volume on their thoughts. They were still individuals, still independent minds, but now they were also connected to something larger. "What's happening to us?" Boram asked, feeling the mental connection spread through her awareness. "We're becoming what we were designed to be," Commander Deho replied, a collective certainty about how reality should work. The entity structure reached the galaxy's edge and began to interact with normal space. Stars near its position started flickering, their nuclear fusion becoming uncertain. Planets questioned their own gravity. The basic forces that held matter together began to weaken. But in human space, nothing changed. Human certainty held the laws of physics steady, maintaining islands of stable reality in an increasingly uncertain universe. General Wu Jin activated the dreadnought Eternal Vigil, humanity's greatest secret weapon. The ship was built around a core of crystallized human stubbornness, powered by the absolute conviction that it could not be destroyed. "All crew, report to battle stations," announced Admiral So Young from the bridge. "Today we learn if 200 years of preparation was enough." The dreadnought moved toward the entity structure, followed by a fleet of human vessels that defied everything alien science thought possible. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that fired concentrated certainty, shields that protected against attacks on the concept of existence itself. Back in the Luna archive, the alien delegates watched the battle begin on the holographic displays. "How are your ships doing that?" demanded the Quantum Collective scientist. "They're violating fundamental principles of physics." "No," Minseo corrected. "They're enforcing fundamental principles of physics. Every human aboard those ships absolutely believes that their weapons will work, their shields will hold, and their ship will survive. That belief makes it true." "That's impossible," Dr. Young-Sik smiled grimly. "You keep saying that word. Stop trying to understand it and just accept it. That's the secret of human technology." The first human weapons struck the entity structure. Instead of explosive damage, the weapons inflicted certainty. Areas of the structure became convinced they were made of normal matter, instead of folded space. Those sections immediately collapsed into conventional physics and disintegrated. The entities responded by trying to erase the human fleet from reality. They sent waves of non-existence at the ships, attacks designed to make them never have been built. The attacks struck human certainty and simply stopped working. Every human crew member absolutely refused to believe they didn't exist. Their combined will overwrote the entity's reality manipulation. "Impossible," breathed the Etherian ambassador watching the display. "You're still doing it," General Wu Jin pointed out. "Stop thinking about what should be possible and start thinking about what needs to happen." Admiral So Young guided the Eternal Vigil into the heart of the entity structure. Her crew of the most reality-anchored humans ever born maintained their absolute certainty about physics, chemistry, and existence itself even as space-time twisted around them. "Deploy the beacon," she ordered, a device the size of a small building ejected from the dreadnought's cargo bay. As soon as it activated, a sphere of completely normal reality expanded around it. Inside that sphere, the laws of physics worked exactly as humans expected them to work. The entities tried to collapse the sphere, but ran into an insurmountable problem. The humans inside absolutely refused to let reality be anything other than what they knew it should be. More beacons deployed from other human ships, creating overlapping zones of enforced normalcy within the entity structure. For the first time in millions of years, the entities experienced something they had never felt before: failure. They tried new attacks, attempting to make the humans doubt their own perceptions. They showed them visions of their home worlds being destroyed, their loved ones dying, their entire species revealed as an illusion. The humans looked at these visions and said, "No, that's not right." Their simple rejection of false reality made the attacks meaningless. On Threshold Station 7, Dr. He Jin monitored the consciousness link between all human minds. "Commander, I'm seeing something incredible. The link isn't making us think the same thoughts. It's making our different thoughts more certain." "Explain," Deho requested. "Every human has slightly different ideas about how physics should work. Usually that would create conflicts, but the link is somehow using our disagreements to make reality more stable." Commander Yunji stood in the center of reality anchoring Station Alpha, watching her instruments detect something that shouldn't exist. The entities weren't just attacking with ships or energy weapons. They were attacking the very idea that reality should make sense. All anchoring stations. Report status, she called over the communication system. Voices came back from stations scattered throughout human space. Each one reported the same thing. Local reality was becoming unstable. Stars were forgetting how to burn. Planets were questioning whether they should have gravity. Even mathematics was becoming uncertain. Station. Beta reports that 2 plus 2 is, sometimes equaling 5 in their sector, came one. Report on Station Gamma says the speed of light keeps changing, came another. But, around each human station, reality remained perfectly normal. The reality anchoring division was doing its job, maintaining islands of sensible physics in an increasingly mad universe. Philosopher Hanul walked through the corridors of the Luna Archive. Heading to an emergency meeting with leaders from across the galaxy, she had spent her life studying the nature of existence itself, preparing for this exact moment. The meeting room was filled with the galaxy's greatest minds, all trying to understand what was happening to their universe. The fundamental constants are breaking down, reported the Quantum Collective's chief scientist. In some areas, atoms can't hold together. In others, energy and matter are becoming the same thing. Our ships can't function outside human-protected zones, added the Zephyrian engineer. Our technology depends on physics working the same way everywhere. Hanul stood up to address the group. That's because your technology is based on understanding how the universe works. But understanding makes you vulnerable to doubt. What do you mean? Asked the Alterian representative. Watch. Hanul pulled out a simple human tool, a hammer. She held it up for everyone to see. This is a hammer. I use it to hit things. It works because I believe it should work. I don't question the physics of leverage, or wonder about the molecular structure of metal, or doubt whether hitting things will actually accomplish anything. She brought the hammer down on the table with a solid thunk that sounded completely normal, even though the air around them was shimmering with reality distortions. Your species build tools based on scientific principles. You understand why they work, which means you can also understand why they might not work. That doubt makes them vulnerable to the entity's attacks. Admiral So Young guided the dreadnought Eternal Vigil deeper into the entity structure. Her crew of reality-anchored humans maintained their certainty about physics even as space twisted into impossible shapes around them. Engineering? Report, she called. All systems normal, Admiral, came the reply. The engines are working fine because they've always worked fine. The hull is holding because it's supposed to hold. Life support is functioning because we need it to function. That's not how engineering works, protested an alien observer who had been brought along to witness human capabilities. It is now, replied the human engineer cheerfully. We stopped caring about why our technology works and started just expecting it to work. Much more reliable that way. The alien observer watched the ship's systems operate in direct violation of several physical laws. The fusion reactors were burning fuel that should have been impossible to ignite. The gravity generators were creating fields without the massive energy requirements that alien science said were necessary. How do you maintain the ship if you don't understand how it works? The observer asked. Same way humans have maintained things for thousands of years, the engineer replied. We hit it with hammers until it works again. Replace parts that look broken, and trust that everything will be fine. On the bridge, Admiral So Young was coordinating the deployment of more reality beacons throughout the entity structure. Each beacon created a zone where human expectations about physics were the only rules that applied. Admiral, reported the tactical officer, the entities are trying something new. They're attacking the concept of military hierarchy. Explain. They're trying to make our crew forget that you're in command, that orders have meaning, that cooperation is possible. So Young felt the attack as a strange tugging sensation in her mind, like someone was trying to convince her that she had never been an admiral, that her crew were just random people who happened to be on the same ship. She rejected the idea with the same casual certainty she used for everything else. I'm Admiral So Young. These are my crew members. We work together because that's how things are done. Next question. The attack simply bounced off her absolute refusal to doubt her own identity and role. Back on Earth, Dr. Ara worked in her laboratory on humanity's most ambitious project yet. technology that would allow direct interface with the cosmic substrate, the underlying foundation of reality itself. The previous ones tried to understand the substrate, she explained to her team. They mapped it, studied it, developed theories about how it worked. That's why they lost. What's our approach? Asked her assistant. We're going to tell it how it should work. The device Ara had built looked like a simple chair with wires attached, but those wires connected to systems that could detect and manipulate the basic programming of existence. The universe isn't governed by natural laws, she continued. It's sustained by the collective expectations of everyone living in it. The previous ones figured this out, but they were too scientific to trust it. And we're not? Ara smiled. We're humans. We've been ignoring inconvenient facts and insisting on our own version of reality for our entire history. This is just the ultimate version of that. She sat in the chair and activated the interface. Suddenly she could perceive the universe as it really was. Not a collection of stars and planets following physical laws, but a consensus reality maintained by the combined beliefs of trillions of conscious beings. Most species contributed complex, scientific understandings of how things should work. Their combined knowledge created detailed, sophisticated versions of physics and chemistry. But humans contributed something different. Simple, stubborn certainty. They didn't understand why gravity worked, they just absolutely insisted that it did work. They couldn't explain nuclear fusion, but they were completely sure that stars should burn. The entity's attack became clear to Ara. They weren't trying to destroy reality. They were trying to convince all conscious beings to stop believing in it. If everyone stopped expecting the universe to make sense, it would collapse into the perfect void the entities preferred. All human consciousness interfaces. Activate now, she broadcast to stations across the galaxy. Thousands of humans connected to the cosmic substrate simultaneously. Instead of trying to understand it or control it, they simply began insisting on their version of how things should be. Stars that had been flickering with uncertainty suddenly burned steadily. Planets that had been questioning their own existence became solid and reliable. The speed of light stopped changing and settled on the value humans expected it to have. Philosopher Hanuel felt the shift as a wave of cosmic stubbornness spreading outward from Earth. Reality became more real, more definite, more human in its basic assumptions. The alien representatives in the Luna Archive watched their instruments in amazement. The universal constants are stabilizing, reported the quantum collective scientist. More than that, added the crystalline collective representative. They're becoming simpler, more intuitive. It's as if the universe is becoming easier to understand. That's because humans are making it easier to understand, Hanuel explained. We don't believe in complicated physics. We think things should be simple and straightforward. You're rewriting the basic laws of nature to match human expectations? Yes. And the entities can't fight it because they don't understand conscious willpower. They can manipulate matter and energy, but they can't force beings to stop believing in themselves. Commander Yunji felt the change at her reality anchoring station. The stabilization fields that had required constant maintenance suddenly became effortless to operate. Reality wanted to be stable now, wanted to follow the simple rules humans expected. All stations report normal operations, she announced. The anchoring network is holding steady, but the real test was yet to come. Admiral So Young's fleet had reached the core of the entity structure, where the beings themselves waited in their realm of perfect nothingness. For the first time since the war began, humans and entities faced each other directly. The entities spoke without words, communicating through alterations in the fabric of space itself. Why do you resist correction? Your existence is an error. We offer you the peace of non-being, Admiral So Young replied in the same manner, her words backed by the certainty of every human consciousness connected to the cosmic substrate. Because existing is better than not existing. Because something is better than nothing. Because we choose to be here. Your choice is irrational. Yes, that's what makes it powerful. The entities tried their ultimate weapon. They showed humanity the truth about existence. How fragile consciousness was. How unlikely organic life was. How much easier it would be to simply not exist at all. Every human who received this knowledge looked at it carefully, considered it thoughtfully, and then said, "That's nice. We still choose to exist anyway." Fleet Admiral Ji Hu stood on the bridge of the command vessel Eternal Certainty, watching the final battle unfold in the space between existence and void. Around him, holographic displays showed the status of every human consciousness in the galaxy, all linked together in a vast network of shared determination. "All stations report ready," announced his communications officer. 7 billion human minds connected and stable. "Not a hive mind," Jihu reminded his crew. "We're still individuals. We just all happen to agree that reality should keep working." In the heart of the entity structure, the final confrontation was beginning. The entities had abandoned their physical forms and revealed themselves as pure concepts. The idea of emptiness, the notion of silence, the principle that nothing was better than something. Dr. Ara, still connected to the cosmic substrate through her consciousness interface, could see the battle as it really was. Not ships firing weapons, but competing definitions of what existence should mean. "Admiral," she reported, "the entities are trying to rewrite the basic nature of reality. They want to change the fundamental rule from something exists to nothing exists." "Can they do that?" asked Fleet Admiral Jihu. "Only if we let them. If we doubt ourselves, if we start thinking they might be right, then reality will shift to match their expectations instead of ours." Around the galaxy, humans in their billions focused on a single, simple thought. We exist. We belong here. This is how things should be. It wasn't sophisticated philosophy or complex science. It was the basic human stubbornness that had carried the species through countless challenges. The same refusal to give up that had built civilizations, survived disasters, and insisted on hope when logic said there was none. Sentinel Dong Hyun, the youngest human ever assigned to the threshold stations, felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was part of the new generation, those who would inherit the role of reality's guardians. "I can feel them," he reported from his post at the edge of human space. "The entities, they're trying to convince me that I'm not real, that this station isn't real, that the whole universe is just a mistake that should be corrected." "And what do you tell them?" asked his commanding officer. "The same thing humans have always told people who say we can't do something. Watch me." The battle reached its climax as the entities made their final push. They unleashed everything. They had learned about reality manipulation, trying to edit the universe itself to make existence impossible. Stars began to wink out, not destroyed but never having existed in the first place. Planets forgot they had ever formed. Entire species found their evolutionary history being rewritten so they had never evolved at all. But in human space, nothing changed. Human certainty held reality steady like an anchor in the storm of cosmic revision. Admiral So Young, deep in the entity structure, felt the full force of their attack. They tried to convince her that Earth had never existed, that humans had never evolved, that her entire species was just a dream that was finally ending. She looked at the swirling void around her ship and said, "That's not how I remember it." Her simple rejection of their version of reality caused the attack to falter. Every human connected to the consciousness network made the same choice. Their version of existence was the correct one, regardless of what cosmic entities claimed. Dr. Ara felt the shift in the cosmic substrate. The fundamental programming of reality was changing, but not in the way the entities wanted. Instead of becoming void, it was becoming more definite, more stable, more insistent on continuing to exist. "Fleet Admiral," she announced, "I think we're winning." But winning came with a price. As the entity's power to alter reality weakened, humanity's responsibility to maintain it grew stronger. Philosopher Han Newell, monitoring the consciousness network from the Luna Archive, saw the choice facing their species with perfect clarity. "We have to decide now," she announced to the human leadership. "We can destroy the entities permanently, but only by accepting that we'll become the universe's eternal maintenance crew." "What does that mean exactly?" asked Fleet Admiral Jihu. "It means humanity can never evolve past our current state. We have to remain forever stubborn, forever certain, forever willing to insist that reality should be simple and straightforward. If we become too wise, too understanding of how fragile existence really is, we'll lose the ability to maintain it through sheer willpower." The choice was presented to every human consciousness simultaneously. Accept eternal responsibility for reality stability, or find another solution that might not exist. The vote wasn't close. Humans had been taking care of impossible jobs with insufficient resources for their entire history. This was just the ultimate version of that. We accept, announced the collective human consciousness. The effect was immediate. The entities found themselves facing not just human certainty, but human certainty backed by the full authority of the cosmic substrate itself. Reality had officially chosen sides. One by one, the entities began to fade. Not destroyed, but edited out of existence by the same power they had tried to use. The universe simply decided they had never been there to begin with. The last entity tried one final attack, attempting to show humanity the true cost of their choice. They would never grow beyond what they were. They would never achieve the cosmic understanding that other species might reach. They would remain forever ordinary, forever limited, forever human. Humanity looked at this terrible fate and said, "Good, we like being human." The entity faded into nothingness, unable to comprehend beings who would choose limitation over enlightenment, responsibility over freedom, existence over the peace of void. As the immediate threat ended, the work of building a new reality began. The threshold stations transformed from military outposts into permanent installations where humans would monitor the stability of existence itself. Sentinel Dong-hyun found himself assigned to Threshold Station Prime, the primary reality anchoring facility. His job was to spend his life insisting that the universe make sense, that physics work consistently, and that existence continue existing. "Are you okay with this?" his commanding officer asked. "Spending your whole life making sure other people can live theirs?" Dong-hyun shrugged in the casual way humans had always approached impossible responsibilities. "Someone has to do it. Might as well be us." Across the galaxy, other species began to understand why humans had always seemed so strange. They weren't behind in development or lacking in sophistication. They were perfectly evolved for their cosmic purpose. The Galactic Council officially recognized human authority over reality maintenance. Species that had demanded answers now asked how they could help, but the answer was always the same. "Just keep living your lives. We'll handle the rest." Dr. Ara established the first Academy of Practical Certainty on Earth, where human children would learn to believe absolutely in the stability of existence without questioning how or why it worked. The most important lesson, she taught her first class of young students, is that the universe should make sense. Don't worry about whether it actually does make sense. Just insist that it should, and it will. The students practiced the basic human art of being right without necessarily understanding why. It was a skill their species had mastered long before they knew they would need it to save the galaxy. Admiral So Young established the Deep Void Patrol, human ships that would venture beyond the galaxy's edge to watch for new threats. They carried crews trained to maintain absolute certainty about their own existence even in the face of cosmic impossibilities. "Remember," she told each new crew, "your job isn't to understand what's out there. Your job is to come back home and tell everyone that everything is fine. Make it true by believing it's true." Years passed. The galaxy settled into its new normal. Species traded freely, explored the stars, and built wonderful civilizations, all protected by human stubbornness operating behind the scenes. Children born on the threshold stations grew up knowing their purpose from birth. They were the universe's customer service department, making sure reality continued to provide reliable service to its inhabitants. They took the job with the same casual competence humans had always shown, not because they were heroes or saints, but because someone had to do it, and they were good at it. The entities never returned. How could they? The universe had officially decided they didn't exist, backed by the unwavering certainty of a species that had never been very good at accepting inconvenient facts. At the edge of known space, Sentinel Dong-hyun completed his daily report. All systems normal, reality stable, universe continues to make sense. Nothing unusual to report. It was the same report filed every day by thousands of humans across the galaxy. A boring routine job that happened to involve maintaining the basic stability of existence itself. But that was humanity for you, taking the impossible and making it routine, one stubborn day at a time. In the void beyond the galaxy's edge, nothing stirred. Nothing existed there at all. The humans had made sure of it, and that was good enough for the universe. Reality continued, stable and dependable, maintained by the most ordinary species in the galaxy, who had somehow become its most essential guardians. And in the cosmic scheme of things, that made perfect sense. Admiral Kethvar stood in the command center of his massive warship, looking at the holographic display that showed a small blue planet. His 4 eyes studied the data streams that flowed across the screen. Numbers, statistics, and intelligence reports painted a clear picture of what lay ahead. The planet was called Earth by its inhabitants. It sat in the 3rd orbit around a yellow star, nothing special by galactic standards. The beings who lived there called themselves humans. They had only recently crawled out of their gravity well, barely managing to reach their own moon with primitive chemical rockets. Kethvar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for amusement among his species. The Vorthak Empire had conquered 847 worlds. This would be number 848, an easy addition to their vast collection of slave planets. Commander Yelthar, Kethvar called to his second-in-command. What does our intelligence say about these humans? Yelthar approached, his cybernetic implants glowing softly in the dim lighting of the bridge. He had served under Kethvar for 23 campaigns, and his enhanced brain could process data faster than most organic minds. The species appears primitive, Admiral, Yelthar reported. They have no energy shields protecting their cities, no plasma weapons, no genetic enhancements. They still use explosive projectiles and chemical propellants for their weapons. Kethvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Chemical weapons? Do they throw rocks at each other too? Actually, Admiral, they do. Our scouts report that humans still engage in what they call sports, where they literally throw objects at targets for entertainment. This brought more laughter from the bridge crew. The Vorthak had evolved past such primitive behaviors millions of years ago. Their warriors were enhanced with cybernetic implants that made them faster, stronger, and smarter than any natural being could hope to be. Population? Kethvar asked. Approximately 8 billion individuals. They are concentrated in large settlements across 7 continents. The planet has vast oceans which they have not learned to live beneath. Kethvar nodded. 8 billion was actually quite large for a primitive world, but it meant more slaves for the Empire's labor camps. The humans would work in the mines and factories until they died, as all conquered species did. Defensive capabilities? Yelthar's implants flickered as he processed the data. Minimal. They have some orbital platforms with basic kinetic weapons. Their spacecraft are slow and poorly shielded. Most of their military power is based on their planet's surface. How quaint, Kethvar mused. They still fight wars on the ground like animals. The Admiral walked to the main viewing port and gazed out at his fleet. 200 ships of various sizes hung in the darkness of space. Sleek destroyers with plasma cannons that could melt through mountain ranges. Heavy cruisers carrying atmospheric processors that could change a world's climate in days. Troop transports filled with 50,000 of the Empire's finest cybernetic warriors. It was overkill, really. Most primitive worlds surrendered after seeing just a dozen Vorthak ships. But the High Command wanted to make an example of this system. Humans had been detected sending radio signals into space for over a century. Their transmissions had been intercepted by dozens of species. It was time to show the galaxy what happened to races that made too much noise. Admiral, called out Navigation Officer Zektra from her station. We are approaching the edge of the human star system. Shall I broadcast the standard surrender terms? Kethvar clicked his mandibles again. Of course, though I doubt they will be smart enough to accept. The surrender ultimatum was a formality that the Empire extended to all primitive species. It offered them a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed by immediately submitting to Vorthak rule. In over 8 centuries of expansion, exactly 0 species had accepted these terms. Zektra activated the communications array. The message went out on all frequencies in the universal trade language, though she doubted the humans would understand it. The message was simple: surrender now and become servants of the Empire, or be destroyed and become slaves of the Empire. Either way, the Vorthak would win. Within minutes, the communication stations across the fleet lit up with incoming transmissions. The humans were responding to the ultimatum. What are they saying? Kethvar asked. Communications specialist Techmore processed the incoming signals. His translation implants worked to decode the primitive human languages. They seem confused, Admiral. Many different responses. Some are asking for more time. Some are begging for mercy. Some appear to be religious prayers. And their governments? The humans have multiple governments, Admiral. No unified planetary authority. The largest political entities are requesting 24 hours to discuss surrender terms among themselves. Kethvar was not surprised. Primitive species rarely had unified leadership. They usually fought among themselves until a superior force like the Vorthak came along to bring them order. Denied, the Admiral stated. They have 6 hours to surrender unconditionally. After that, we begin the bombardment. As the hours passed, more human transmissions flooded the airways. The Vorthak monitored them with growing amusement. The humans seemed to be in complete panic. Their leaders argued with each other over whether to fight or surrender. Some groups tried to evacuate their populations to remote locations. Others prepared what they called last stands in their major cities. Most entertaining of all were the human religious broadcasts. Apparently, many humans believed their primitive gods would save them from the Vorthak. They held mass gatherings where they sang songs and made speeches about hope and courage. It was almost touching in its futility. Admiral, Yelthar reported as the 6-hour deadline approached, several human spacecraft have launched from their planet. Small vessels lightly armed. They appear to be fleeing the system. Kethvar looked at the tactical display. A dozen human ships were indeed moving away from their homeworld at maximum speed. Their primitive engines would take them days to reach the edge of the system. Let them go, the Admiral decided. Survivors will spread word of our power to other primitive species. It will make future conquests easier. There is one unusual development, Yelthar continued. The fleeing ships are not jumping to hyperspace as expected. They are maintaining position at the system's outer edge and broadcasting on all frequencies. Kethvar frowned. Broadcasting what? It appears to be music, Admiral. Human musical compositions. They are transmitting them across the entire system. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. Music, are they trying to confuse us with their primitive art forms? Unknown, Admiral. The broadcasts contain no military intelligence or surrender offers, just music. Kethvar dismissed it with a wave of his clawed hand. Fear makes primitive minds do strange things. Begin the attack. The Vorthak fleet moved into formation and began its approach to Earth. Their sensors showed the human defensive platforms powering up their weapons. Kinetic railguns and missile batteries, primitive but numerous. It would be like being attacked by insects. Annoying but ultimately harmless against Vorthak shields. As the fleet crossed into the inner system, something unexpected happened. The space around them suddenly filled with small objects that their sensors had not detected. They appeared to be mines of some kind, but unlike any technology in the Vorthak database. Stealth mines, Yelthar shouted. How did they? The first wave of explosions cut off his words. The mines detonated in perfect coordination, creating a web of plasma fire that engulfed 3 of the fleet's heavy cruisers. Their shields flared and failed under the concentrated assault. Kethvar stared in shock as one of his capital ships, a vessel that had conquered a dozen worlds, broke apart under the unexpected attack. Debris and atmosphere vented into space as the massive ship died. Damage report, he roared. 3 heavy cruisers destroyed or crippled, came the reply. The Thunderstrike, the Void Cutter, and the Starender. Combined casualties estimated at 15,000 troops. The Admiral's mandibles ground together in rage and confusion. How is this possible? Our sensors detected no mines. The human stealth technology appears more advanced than our intelligence suggested, Yelthar reported. These mines were somehow hidden from our scans. Kethvar stared at the tactical display as his fleet regrouped. The surviving ships had raised their shields and were scanning for more hidden threats. But the damage was done. In the first minutes of what should have been an easy conquest, the humans had destroyed 3 Vorthak capital ships. Admiral, communications specialist Techmore called out. We are receiving a transmission from the human planet. Put it through. A voice spoke in the universal trade language, clearly translated by human computers. The voice was calm, almost conversational. This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the United Nations Defense Force. You have entered our star system with hostile intent and opened fire on our people. This constitutes an act of war. We reject your surrender demands. If you wish to take our world, you will have to fight for every meter of it. The transmission ended. Kethavar stood in stunned silence. In over 8 centuries of conquest, no primitive species had ever responded to the Empire's ultimatum with such confidence. "Admiral," Yelthar said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethavar looked out at the blue planet that hung before them. Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by screens showing the battle above. The secret bunker had been built 50 years ago, when humanity first detected alien signals. Every government on Earth had contributed to this moment, preparing for the day when something would come looking for them. Status report? Hyunwoo called out to his staff. "The minefield worked better than expected," reported Colonel Minki from the tactical station. "We took out 3 of their big ships, but they're adapting fast. Their remaining vessels have full shields up and they're scanning for more traps." Hyunwoo nodded. The stealth mines had been humanity's first surprise, but not their last. Earth's scientists had spent decades studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Crashed probes, intercepted signals, even debris from ancient battlefields discovered by deep space telescopes. All of it had been reverse-engineered and improved upon. "What about our fleet?" Captain Boram's voice came through the communication system from her fighter squadron orbiting Luna. "Blue Squadron is in position, Admiral. We have 48 fighters ready to engage. The enemy doesn't seem to consider us a threat." That was exactly what humanity wanted. The Vorthak had studied Earth's military capabilities, but they had only seen what humanity wanted them to see. The real fleet was hidden behind Luna, powered down and invisible to most sensors. "Green Squadron reporting?" came another voice. This was Major Taeho, commanding the defense platforms around Earth. "All orbital fortresses are online. Railguns charged and ready." The orbital fortresses looked like simple mining stations from the outside. The Vorthak sensors would read them as industrial facilities, not weapons platforms. Each one contained enough firepower to level a city, all disguised as civilian infrastructure. "Admiral," called out Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin, "the enemy fleet is moving into attack formation. They're going to hit our outer defenses first." Hyunwoo watched the tactical display as 200 alien ships arranged themselves for battle. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their plasma weapons could burn through the Earth's crust. Their shields could deflect nuclear weapons, but the aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought they were fighting primitives. "All units begin Phase 1, Hyunwoo ordered. In space above Earth, Captain Boram led her fighters out from behind the moon. The small human ships looked pathetic compared to the massive alien fleet. Their hulls were patchwork combinations of Earth technology and salvaged alien systems. No 2 fighters looked exactly alike. "Remember the plan," Boram told her pilots over the radio. "We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive long enough to hurt them." The human fighters accelerated toward the alien fleet, their engines burning bright in the darkness. The Vorthak detected them immediately and began tracking them with weapon systems. "Incoming missiles," reported flight leader Jin Woo. "Plasma seekers, just like the simulations." "Evasive maneuvers," Boram ordered. "Use Earth's gravity well." The human fighters dove toward their homeworld, using the planet's gravity to accelerate beyond what their engines could manage alone. The alien missiles followed, but the high-speed chase took them directly through Earth's orbital defense grid. "Now," shouted Major Taeho from the hidden fortresses. What the Vorthak had thought were mining stations suddenly revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Massive railguns emerged from concealed ports and fired streams of metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The alien missiles, focused on chasing the human fighters, flew directly into the wall of kinetic energy. Explosions lit up the space around Earth as the plasma seekers were destroyed. But the railgun rounds continued on their trajectory, slamming into the alien fleet beyond. "Direct hits on multiple targets," reported the tracking station. "Enemy shields are holding, but they're taking damage." The Vorthak fleet reacted quickly, turning their main guns on the orbital platforms. Plasma beams lanced out, seeking to destroy the unexpected threat. But the human stations were already moving, their hidden thruster systems pushing them into new positions. "Phase 2, ordered Hyunwoo. "Captain, Boram's fighters had completed their gravity-assisted acceleration, and were now moving faster than anything in the alien fleet. They streaked past the Vorthak ships, firing missiles and railgun rounds as they passed. But these were not normal attacks. Each human weapon had been designed to target specific weaknesses that Earth scientists had identified in alien technology. The missiles carried electromagnetic pulse warheads that disrupted cybernetic systems. The railgun rounds were made of materials that resonated at frequencies harmful to alien hull composites. Multiple enemy ships showing systems failures, reported the sensor station. Their cybernetic networks are being disrupted by our EMP weapons. The Vorthak had enhanced their warriors with cybernetic implants to make them superior fighters. But those same implants became weaknesses when hit with the right electromagnetic frequencies. Alien soldiers throughout the fleet suddenly found their enhanced abilities failing them. Their formation is breaking up, observed Colonel Minke. The command ships are trying to re-establish communications with their scattered units. This was exactly what humanity had planned for. Earth's military had studied every alien conflict they could observe through long-range telescopes. The Vorthak always fought in the same way, using rigid formations and centralized command structures. Disrupt their communications, and their fleet became a collection of individual ships instead of a coordinated force. Launch Phase 3, Hyunwoo commanded. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, more human ships began to appear. These were not fighters or defense platforms. They were converted mining vessels and cargo haulers, ships that looked completely harmless on sensors. Captain Soo-jin commanded the mining ship Determination as it emerged from behind a large asteroid. Her vessel looked like nothing more than an industrial platform with engines attached. The Vorthak sensors dismissed it as a fleeing civilian craft. Payload ready, reported her weapons officer. Target locked. The Determination accelerated toward the alien fleet, broadcasting civilian distress calls on all frequencies. To the Vorthak, it appeared to be another human ship trying to escape the battle. They ignored it completely. When the mining ship reached the center of the alien formation, it revealed its true purpose. Hidden cargo bays opened to release thousands of small objects into space. Each object was a modified mining explosive, programmed to seek out and attach to alien hulls. Shaped charges deployed, Soo-jin reported. Proximity fuses armed. The mining explosives spread throughout the alien fleet like a swarm of mechanical insects. They attached themselves to Vorthak ships and began counting down to detonation. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it was too late. Explosions rippled through the enemy formation as hundreds of shaped charges detonated simultaneously. The blasts were small individually, but they were placed precisely to damage critical systems. Engine exhausts, sensor arrays, weapon mounts and communication antennas were destroyed across dozens of ships. Enemy fleet is in disarray, reported the tactical station. Multiple ships dead in space. Others are trying to retreat to safe distance, but humanity was not finished. Major Taeho had been moving his orbital platforms throughout the battle, positioning them for one final surprise. The disguised weapons stations were now spread across Earth's orbit like a net of hidden firepower. All platforms, synchronized barrage on my mark, Taeho ordered. Target their command ships. The orbital railguns fired as one, sending a stream of metal projectiles toward the largest alien vessels. The Vorthak shields flared as they absorbed the kinetic impacts, but the concentrated fire was too much. One by one, the command ships began to fail. Their flagship shields are down, reported the sensor station. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Admiral Kethvar's ship, the mighty Devastation, was now venting atmosphere into space. The Vorthak commander stood on his damaged bridge, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. How? He demanded of his surviving officers. How are these primitives fighting us to a standstill? Commander Yelthar, his cybernetic implants flickering from EMP damage, tried to process what had happened. Admiral, they are not fighting like any species we have encountered. Their tactics are completely unpredictable. On Earth, Admiral Hyunwoo watched the alien fleet beginning to withdraw to a safer distance. The first engagement was over, but the real battle was just beginning. Damage report, he requested. We lost 6 orbital platforms and 14 fighters, Colonel Minke reported. The Determination was destroyed in her attack run, but Captain Soo-jin's crew got to the escape pods. Hyunwoo closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of the brave souls who had died in the opening battle. But their sacrifice had achieved something incredible. Humanity had fought the mighty Vorthak Empire to a draw. What are the aliens doing now? He asked. Regrouping at the edge of the system, came the reply. They are requesting reinforcements and trying to repair their damaged ships. Hyunwoo smiled grimly. The Vorthak thought they were dealing with a primitive species that had gotten lucky. They would call for more ships, better weapons, and try to overwhelm Earth with superior numbers.